It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Well, welcome, my friends, to the Hazleton Area School District Report. You know, we do a report every month telling you what's going on in different areas, particularly with the Hazleton Area School District. There's so much that goes on. Okay, give me an example. Of over 1,500 employees, the budget's $250 million, 13,000 plus students, and changes happening every day. How do you manage all this? So we've been bringing you different information on different schools and what's going on. So I figured let's bring the head of the school board in to find out what's happening with the school board. And I'm here, of course, with Brian Uplinger, who is the superintendent. Tony Bonomo, who is the president. Tony, how are you?
I'm good, Sam. How are you?
I was just asking about your dad, and he's doing all right, right?
Thank God, everything's good. At 96, he's doing well.
Now, there's a man who worked who worked all his life.
Yep.
You know, was always, you know, to the point and honest, and you know, I'm proud to say he's a friend of mine. You know, give him my best. You know.
I definitely will.
So 96.
Yep.
God bless him. Yeah, that's fantastic. Brian, how are you?
Doing well. Yeah, doing really well.
I'd say pulling your hair out, but I don't have any hair. Okay.
I don't either. You should see I just had my driver's license renewed, and from 4 years ago to today, it's stark difference.
No stress, huh?
No,
stress.
none.
The doctor
None
said
whatsoever.
to me, he said, Sammy, you got to do away with stress. I said, okay. Do you have a pill for that? I just mentioned to you there's 13,000 plus students coming in, plus there's students coming in the whole day.
Right.
So how do you adjust, okay, before I get to the president here, how do you adjust with all the students coming in, particularly people who are, you know, there's got to be some immigrants coming in, et cetera, and nothing wrong, but the point is, how do you adjust to that?
So I've been here for 8 years now, and I've always said that coming from a small district to a large district, it doesn't matter who the students are, where they come from, how they get here. We have a responsibility to educate them to the best of their ability and the best of our ability. And we do that, and it shows in our graduation student performance, and I'm not talking about test scores because you know those aren't really good, but we have students that can't perform well on the test, and their students can't perform well. Some students can't perform well because it's a standardized test, and some people don't do well on standardized tests. But I say we're doing really well. This last year, we gave out close to $9 million in scholarships to our seniors. So people are looking at us. Colleges are looking at us. Colleges are providing that money to us to give to students through different scholarships. But to adjust to the number of students that are coming in, it's a juggling act, pretty much. There are grade levels that are closed because buildings can't hold that many students. We'll say third grade might be closed at Drums Elementary Middle. So what we have to do is adjust our routing with transportation and provide a student that can't fit in that Drums third grade classroom to go to another building that's in the district. That's an unfortunate thing that none of us like to do, but it's a necessity, and that's how we kind of adjust the student population. And then if a seat opens in that Drums third grade classroom, we'll bring that student back and put them in their home school. But we have so many students coming in that there are a number of students that are in that situation, which again is not ideal.
When I say placement, the point is, and you're putting a student in the class.
Correct.
Some of them do not speak English.
Correct.
Okay, so you have that concern. The second concern is what is their ability? Okay, will that student take from the learning process? How do you separate that?
So if there's educational difficulties that a teacher may see or an administrator may see in a student, we have them identified, or not identified, but we have them assessed to see if there might be some special needs difficulties that they're encountering. They'll go through the special education process then. We have specific buildings that identified for autistic support or emotional support or learning support, And we have our students that are identified in those situations that will take autistic support, for example. We have specific classrooms that are designed to help those students that have autism. So we do that. If there are students that are struggling, they may not qualify for special education, struggling with the English language, we have ELL teachers across the district that help support those students. We have our newcomer center at the Early Learning Center. It's huge. It's going really, really well. From last year to this year, night and day. You know, the students, you could hear a pin drop in the hall where those our newcomers are. They're learning every single day. They're being immersed in English. So we have the tools and the means to be able to help all students. We just are lacking in facilities right now because we're growing so quickly.
How do you assess the progress of the students in the classes?
Sure, we look at every day. We look at grades. Their teachers will assess them on different aspects of the lesson plan that they have. We look at it on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis. And just going back to what I had said earlier about test scores, the once in a year assessment doesn't really do justice and doesn't provide any projection of how that child is going to perform once they leave us, once they graduate. So what we want to focus on is what they're doing in the classroom. Are they obtaining obtaining all the materials that we're providing? Is there any other types of supports that we can provide them? So we look at it at a ground level as well as a state and federal level because we have to. But we do provide those supports for all students.
Now you have different counselors, et cetera, because there are some people that come in with emotional problems.
Yes.
And when they're coming in with emotional problems, that is a problem.
Correct.
Okay. And unfortunately, you know, we would hope that that wouldn't be the case, but let's talk reality, all right? Here again, how does that drag the educational system if you're in a classroom and you have some, you know, they're not coming from the best whatever.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, there's definitely some situations that we have to address in those types of classrooms. And again, if the child doesn't qualify for special needs, then we look at other ways that we can accommodate the needs of that child. As for the rest of the classroom, that they may be inhibited by one or two students that don't necessarily leave the classroom, the teacher can differentiate the instruction, try to use different methods to help that student or those students that may be acting out to help them adjust or realign themselves with the remainder of the classroom. There are some outbursts, certainly we have that everywhere, but we do address that within the classroom or within the administrative team that's in that school, counselors, principals, myself. My assistants, we all get involved and try to help that situation.
So you're monitoring it all the time?
We do, yes.
I think that's key. Okay. Some of the other areas, and we'll address this to Tony when we address some of the concerns of the school board. The looking at the total educational package we have here. I've said this many times as a former school teacher. I wouldn't want to be a teacher today because of the challenges that they have. And I applaud everyone in the school district. You couldn't pay them enough as far as I'm concerned. But you see people who don't understand that say, well, they're getting paid too much. Are you kidding me? But that's another story. Going back to the quality of education, and again, we have to applaud the school board for putting these people on. How do you know, Brian, as a superintendent, where you should be focusing your major attention?
We look at different aspects of where that child may want to go once they leave us, and I always look at, you know, how are our seniors doing, where are they headed after they leave the hallowed halls of Hazleton area. Where are they going to college? Are they going to trade school? Are they going to be gainfully employed somewhere? Are they going to the military? So we kind of monitor that a little bit, just to give us kind of a sense of how are we doing? What do we need to adjust? Our curriculum is on a 5-year cycle, so we update curriculum every 5 years. obviously not every subject gets updated every 5 years, so it's on a cycle. We'll say this year was social studies, next year will be science. So in 5 years, social studies will be back up again, and in 6 years, science will come back up again. So we put that on a cycle, and just to ensure that we're providing the students with the most updated information that's available to us.
Is there any shortage of teachers right now? Do we need more teachers?
We do. We have a number of teachers that are emergency certified. They have a bachelor's degree. However, through the state, we're allowed to emergency certify them. And what they'll do is go back to school to become a certified teacher, and then that emergency certification will go away. We are right now maybe 2 to 3 teachers short. But again, we have substitutes in those classrooms. We utilize Kelly Services to provide those substitutes in the classrooms.
Well, that's good and bad sometimes. The good part is you have, fill in, but then how about the curriculum and, the routine that you have as a teacher wants to develop, and I think that's always a challenge.
Right.
My friends who are listening to the Hazleton Area School District Report, we do a number of reports every month. Filling in what's going on. The Hazleton Area School District Report is interesting because one of the administrators bumped into my wife and I, and he came up, he says, Sam, it's interesting because there's so much to be said about the Hazleton Area School District that a lot of people just don't know. Maybe sometimes you look at headlines or key things on television, but you don't know the inner workings. So I'm hoping through these shows you're getting an education. All I know is being a resident of this area for many years, seeing a lot of school boards, seeing a lot of nonsense happening. I think we have one of the best school boards right now, not because this guy sitting next to me, and we have the finest teachers and administrators that you can imagine in the state of Pennsylvania. Come back, we'll talk to the man, Tony Bonomo. Well, welcome back to the Hazleton Area School District Report. I'm Sam Lesante. Remember, 24/7, anywhere in the world, you can watch our shows on our YouTube channel and also on our website. All the shows are there. All the Hazleton Area School District shows we've done are on our website. I'm joined here today by Brian Uplinger, who is the superintendent, and now Tony Bonomo, who is the school board president. Well, Tony, you've been here for 27 years. Do you think you know anything?
I hope to God not. It's been quite a venture for me. 27 years. I've been elected 7 terms, and I credit my family more than anything in the ability to do that.
The point is that you've been on for 27 years, so hey, there's got to be something going where people keep on voting for you and put you on the thing, which is really a tribute to you. Looking at that, Tony, as an experienced school board member, you've seen many changes. You've seen good things and bad things, okay, with the board. We've had some boards that just wanted to run the school district, and you've lived through those things. Made it very difficult for guys like Brian or women like Shepperson. And so the politics comes into play, and that's when some people, sometimes they don't know the 95% of the good things. All they know is the 5% is that you hired this person, who hired that. Right. What have you seen throughout the years?
I think one of the strongest points of the district is our administrative team. And I think the board itself realizes the importance of the administration, because unlike other boards that I've been on, this board allows the administrators to administer, which is I think that's a pretty sound philosophy as far as it goes.
Some school board members, when they ran this time, and I think we have some good experience in previous teachers, they knew the inner workings. They knew what had to be done and what the school board should be doing to help them. Okay, so that's where I think input comes in. Who are for those people who don't know, who are on the school board right now?
Well, we have Ella McBride, Linda DeCosmo, myself, Eddie Szymanski, Joe Barletta.
Oh, don't forget
Joe Zeller. James
Chapman.
Jimmy Chapman.
And now you just put
And
on.
now we just appointed Jeff Kubitz.
Yeah,
Correct.
good man.
Yep.
Yeah, Jeffrey is a.
And Dr. Childs, I'm sorry.
and,
Yes.
So I'm trying to go through.
With Jeff coming on, he's my neighbor, but the point is, for putting that aside, he's going to bring a lot to the table. He's really a good person.
He's an experienced politician, and that's better than, you don't have to go through the learning curve of him having to learn the system. Politically, I think he's a pretty sound individual.
I think you guys made a great choice. Anyway, looking at the challenges that you have, what are some of the key? You're talking about $250 million. If people are responsible for $250 million, what you do affects anything. Fortunately or unfortunately, 82% of that is salaries, and so you can't do anything with that adjusting. With the cost of living today, the cost of expenses, the inflation, etc., it's very difficult sometimes to go to a department head and say, I want you to cut here, cut there, and cut here, and still get the same services. How do you face those things, Tony?
It's a difficult thing, and you could talk to any politician in the area, but the worst thing that a politician wants to do is if he ever has to raise taxes. We're fortunate that I think we just do that sporadically. Every 4 years we try to raise them. Well, again, I remember my philosophy way back when was I'd sooner raise taxes a little bit every year rather than cripple people with a big tax increase in the said year as far as it goes. But it's interesting because you're trying to do more with less, and that's pretty tough when you're talking about education as far as it goes.
When you're looking at the board as a whole, and you're looking at the challenges that the board has, okay, and then of course you certainly bring that to the administration as to resolve. What is the prime concern now of the board? Is there any key issue that you guys have to focus in on?
Not really. Not that I can think of. The best part about this board is it appears that everybody gets along. Like, you don't have one or two people that want to be at the top of the ladder. Everybody seems to be pretty understanding about most of the stuff that's taking place in the district. There's many problems, and Brian could attest to that, but we seem to be handling it pretty good as far as that goes.
Key issues of how about he was talking about enrollment and talking about schools, expansion. What areas are we going there?
Well, this is something that I think a lot of people don't realize, but in public education, I think you are warranted you've got to educate everybody. Correct. So that being said, it appears that Hazleton is like the land of opportunity because we keep getting busloads of new kids in, probably on a weekly basis, I would assume. And so how do they deal with it? I don't know. I don't know how they do it. God bless them, because they all realize that every kid has to be educated. And as I said, I think we do a pretty good job of doing that.
When you're looking at budgets, all right, and I have this all the time, primarily with senior citizens, where they say, look, I don't have any children going to school, why should I be paying these enormous, there's people that are going there that are not paying their fair share, this is not right, and I'm sure sometimes school board meetings, some people are frustrated. How do you answer those people? What do you tell those people?
I think it's like the cost of doing business, you know what I'm saying? Like, public education is what it is. You could see Catholic education seems to be we're losing Catholic education because of the cost. So, public education is the best part about it. Well, I shouldn't even say the best part about it, but, if you have to raise money, the way you go about doing that is raising taxes, and nobody ever wants to do that.
Looking at budgets, looking at how do we, because really whether you don't have anyone in school or not, you are still affected by the educational system, because these are people who are fixing your cars or teaching your kids or whatever, so you're making an investment. I think the concern is, how is it a fair investment?
I don't believe it. Well, I wouldn't say it's completely fair, but again, that isn't something that you would want to address with your local school board. That comes through the legislature. So I mean, people could complain to us all they want, but really, there's really not much we can't change the way things are going. I mean, that's set by the, as I said, it's set by the legislature.
And just to add to that, that if we don't, we're as a taxing entity, we'll say, we get penalized by the state or even the federal government if we don't do our own due diligence in raising taxes. So if we're not doing our fair share in increasing the taxes over a period of time, then we get penalized and don't get additional funding from them. So there's a certain level of responsibility that we have, and it is an unfortunate situation. It's not completely fair on how school districts are getting those funds. There should be a different way to go about taxing or getting the funding to the districts.
So when I served as a chairman of the board of the college, I figured that when you're looking at Luzerne County, you have the southern Luzerne, northern Luzerne. I wanted there to be fair share with enrollment. There wasn't going to be 80% from Wilkes-Barre and 20% from this area. It was going to be 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. Okay, now, looking at the school, looking at the administration, and looking at our budget, when we look at what we're rating, and I don't know this answer, I hope you could tell me. If we rank number 4 in the state of Pennsylvania, or number 8, whatever we rank, are we getting our fair share from the budget with that ranking?
The state budget
Yeah.
or federal? No, we're not.
So that's where he's talking about the legislative point.
Right.
See, that's where the unfair part comes in. Now, if you're number 20 and you're getting enough for number 3, it's not right. But if you're number 3 and 20 is getting more than you are at number
Correct.
3, then you
Right.
have a political problem here.
Right.
That's where I think where people should really zone in on. How far are we off?
I had the opportunity to present to the Education Commission last year when they were doing their rounds, and we're underfunded at least $120 million. So this year,
Wow.
exactly. So because of this, the fair funding situation that came out and noting that it was not fair, we received $14 million of that $120 million. However, we're hoping that stays in the budget, and it's not just, we hope it's a new watermark, I should say.
So that's
from the state.
legislation.
That's legislation.
Folks, I'm talking to Tony Bonomo, who's the president of the Hazleton Area School Board, and Brian Uplinger, who's the superintendent. See what I'm saying, my friends? When you talk about politics, that's where politics comes in, okay? So if our fair share is $120 million, well, we want our fair share. So what they do is they give them tokens. I give them $14 million, and the politicians play politics. Politicians affect our lives. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Hazleton Area School District Report, my friends. I'm Sam Lesante. I'm joined here by Tony Bonomo, who is the president of the school board, and Brian Uplinger, who is the superintendent. Brian, as we continue, and Tony, once again, thank the board for allowing, for making investment in these reports. I'm hoping that we learn something. How can, Tony, as a president of the school board, how can we as a public be of help?
It's more thinking positive rather than, because we live in an area that there's a lot of negativity. So I think staying positive, because if ever you had the opportunity to come into our administration building and tour, schools and see what's going on, it would change your whole outlook on things. I mean, we have it going in the right direction. And Brian,
It's funny you should say that, because that administrator who talked to me said the same thing you said, and hopefully with these shows, as Tony suggested, we can do some of those things in showing the internal workings and what's going on. Because I remember you saying to me at Booties the other day, what you found with the Career Center, and there are tons of things that are going on. What would you say? How could we be of help?
I'd say the same thing. We need to focus more on the positives that are occurring in the district and not dwell on the negatives. Every district has negatives, but we are doing so many good things for the 13,000 plus students that we have that are unfathomable, unconscionable in other districts. That it just doesn't happen. We're doing great things here.
You see how much can be accomplished when you cooperate and you put your political differences aside and you try to work, which is good, and that's what we're hoping for, because the average person out there doesn't get up in the morning and say, I wonder what the Hazleton Area School District is doing today. They're depending on guys like you, Tony, and your board.
Yep.
You have a great board, you really do.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So well, hopefully, Brian, we can continue on with some of those things and bring that information. If you have any questions, my friend, you sam@ssptv.com. Remember, all the shows we've done so far, the reports on the Hazleton Area School District, are on our website and also our YouTube channel. So you go there and you hit / Sam Lesante and you'll see Hazleton Area School District. You see we went to the Career Center, we went to cyber school, we went to the
Academy of Sciences.
Academy of Sciences, and of course this is the best show because we have the president on, Tony Bonomo. I said, well, thank you, Tony, for allowing this. Appreciate it very much. Brian, we'll see you next time.